All right, so I realized my timer just stopped working. But if you are curious about those to generate images, what I use for all of the images in here is I just put a woman with like light long brown hair, kind of give it descriptions, and then I just click on, oh, one thing I needed to make the image an animated character or cartoon, I think is what I put. And then you can generate those images, and it can generate those images directly in here. Now, I would say Canva's AI isn't the greatest with image generations. So it's probably not my favorite like image generator, but it does the job. But I can do those images directly within here. And so I can take those images, sort of a little different than what I had with the other style. I will say with the students, we are looking at the AI use in Canva with students. I think we right now have it turned on, but I might have Mike turn it back off, because when I was messing around with the image generator yesterday or the last couple of days, I was getting some girls like whenever I put in like mythical or fairy tale settings, it was giving me a little bit less clothed women than I would like for students to be seeing. Not that everything was covered, but like we're going to look and talk to Canva about that and make sure that there's a little bit more safeguards when it comes to students. And I'm definitely, one thing I'm going to do next week, which I need to let Mike know, is I'm going to try to push the limits of it to see if it does things. So that's one of the reasons why we're being really cautious with students too, is we want to make sure that whatever is being created is like totally appropriate and not a problem for you guys in the classroom. But with your images, and so I used an AI generated one, but you can do any photo that you have. So you can upload a photo, which I'll show in a minute, or you can use any one. But when you click on this image, you get this toolbar up here. And one of my favorite things to do is to remove backgrounds of things. So this is what this BG remover is for. And I can now remove the background and can now make it my own there. So that's kind of the other options you have is you can totally edit this photo too. So I can magic erase. There's some Magic Studio AI tools within that. And then you also have some effects that we can do. So a lot of times I like to like recolor things if I can, like using the filters. I can kind of like play with the coloring if it's not allowing me to play with the coloring up here. So definitely one of my most used tools within Canva is this background remover. To me, like it takes away some of those images. It kind of makes it a little bit more personal. I can kind of manipulate the image a little bit better for my own purpose. So I want to show you that real quick. Within Canva too, going along the sidebar, we have our text options. Now I have a brand kit that I kind of set, and then I accidentally realized I set it for the whole district. So this is kind of our district one, but we have it, but these are my most used ones. So you can create brand kits, but you can also just create, like, you have your headings and you can put in those texts here. One of the things that I really like too within Canva is it gives you recently used or font combinations. So I don't have to be totally creative on my own. I can kind of look at what might be already created. Like I'm feeling cute today, and I can then change the wording to yay, cute. Okay. And I can change and customize the words directly there. So I think one of the features I really like is this ability of like, they kind of give suggestions of text fonts that look good and that we can kind of use within there. You can also change the fonts up here. And a lot of times I just like using their suggested. I like a lot of handwriting fonts, so I can kind of change it there. And I can also change, this is where I can edit those brand kits. Again, I went to my text here and then text styles, and I can edit my brand kit or kind of create a brand kit if I want with it. So really cool stuff within the text feature itself. That brand kit is also found on the sidebar here, so we can have it here. But a lot of times I kind of maybe set this and forget it or don't kind of ignore it. Next one is uploads. So uploads, we can upload files. So a lot of times I just use this for images that I upload or like screenshots that I'm doing, and I can upload files directly. So you can't see it, but it just popped up from my computer. And so I can look and see what, I think that's a screenshot of me, but I can upload things directly in here. One of the things that I really like about the uploads now is that they have these folders. And so I put in folders a lot of times, like we were working with our vendors. And so I have like vendor logos like Edpuzzle or Cami logos or things that I use quite a bit. I have it here, school logos, and then our district logos. So if you're having things that you use a lot of, when I was in the classroom, like I had like my go to like pointer finger and like my, I had a screenshot of like the annotation, like what they needed to do when they were annotating. That was a picture that I had that I used a lot. So I would put those in a folder so that I would have those without having to search through. The other thing is if you use Canva a lot too, you can also search for keywords. So if I like put in like person, it's going to show me all the images of people. And so I can use keywords to also search within my uploads there too. While we're here, I want to show you this feature, this record yourself feature. And I'm going to talk about this more with like collaboration later, but this record yourself feature is really nice because now I can either record a talking head, so me talking and giving the presentation, or I can do screen recorder for desktop is new, and generate for AI voice. I don't really like AI voices, so I don't like play with this, but the recorder talking head is pretty awesome. Because when you can record the presentation directly within Canva, and I can choose to have the camera off. And so I use this a lot during the classroom. Let me go ahead and record. I had students record themselves a lot during when we were using Canva and doing little things so that they had like, I could hold them a little bit more accountable. It helped with the collaboration. I could kind of record those pieces there. So this is one that I used a lot in the classroom too, with students in particular during, and then there's my talk when we were using Canva and doing little. So another way, especially in this where Flipgrid is gone, another way we can get students to be talking and recording themselves directly too. And you can go through and actually give a presentation and have students present that way as well. But kind of like, I think something that often gets overlooked in Canva is that ability to record yourself with it. Canva is making changes like any other program. And so I think it was right before winter break, that feature actually went away for a second. And so we had some teachers that were like asking about it, but they changed it. All right, Jacqueline.
So instead of recording on Loom, and I don't know, in the old days, insert that video from Loom there, one can just, like you said, go ahead and just record directly on Canva.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll show you some student examples of students doing that too. And I often have students, I like having students record either a partner or group conversations, just again, that kind of that accountability piece. So I've had things, and I'll show like actual examples from my classroom, but like where I would have like groups record and just put it all on the same Canvas slide. There hasn't been a limit of how many people can record a presentation. Like I've had 6 groups at the same time record their group conversation and put it on the same slide. So you can even have multiple people all at once or however you want to set it up. But I'll show you when I get to my class templates, I'll show you how that looked in my classroom. But yeah, they can do it directly in there. You don't have to have them go to a different program, which I'm a big fan of. With the less steps my students have to do, or like I feel like the more I had them go to a new tab, the more I was likely to lose them. So keeping it in one ecosystem is like really awesome. All right, and then continuing on our tools, these tools here, these are where you can write things. Now I don't have my iPad or a touchscreen around me, but this is where I can draw, and so my drawings aren't going to be as lovely, but this is where I can draw and I can write, and I can like add sticky notes and things like that directly within Canva. So again, like I'm a visual person. I love like visually pretty things. And so sometimes like I wanted the handwriting and wanted it to be my handwriting and to be a little bit more organic. So I could do that and embed that within presentations here too. This also helps. We have whiteboard features within Canva. So one thing you can do is clicking on the slide down here, you'll get 3 dots. And I can expand, unless they changed on me, expand to whiteboard. And now I've made this slide an entire whiteboard. And so you can now like have a more thinking space and a doodle space and whatever within it. And so I can resize and go through. One word of caution, and this is a change that Canva has recently made, is that once you expand it to whiteboard, you can't unexpand it again. So this is now whiteboard, but it keeps it as the same as like a slides. So you'll have it the same slide space. So kind of a cool feature. And I'll show you again how I use that in the classroom once we get to those. And then projects, if you have more projects that you kind of want to insert or do there, you have that with. And then directly on the side here, more apps. Canva has a lot of integrated things with it that, or choices with it. Honestly, it can be really overwhelming. Canva itself can be overwhelming. So I haven't played with apps in a minute, but we'll talk about one app feature that Canva has, but there's a ton of things within Canva that we can add in. So just from Canva alone, we can talk about videos or photos or mockups. We're going to talk about this bulk crate, but there's a lot within here that you can do in apps that you can integrate. So if you have a program like a font program or something, it might be integrated within here. I know Bitly was integrated in here in these QR code generators, and so I would use Bitly in Canva a lot, but I don't so much anymore. But this can be really overwhelming. Like I said, Canva itself can be a little overwhelming. So if you're ready to explore, I would recommend exploring and kind of going through there. But honestly, even myself, I kind of ignore this a little bit. And then looking through here, we have, that's kind of the main apps, but I do want to point out Magic Media is directly in here. And this is another way where we can use AI to create graphics or images and to kind of like recreate things already. So they're kind of embedding multiple like ways of access throughout Canva there. All right, I just talked a lot and we just did a lot. So I want to take about 5 minutes right now to kind of explore just all of those features within Canva and to kind of use it So 5 minutes to explore, ask questions if you need to ask questions.
I have a question, Amber. So I usually use Google for my presentations. So if I'm going to put this in Google Classroom, I'm going to do it as a link, or I'm going to download it. What am I going to do?
You're going to put it in as a link. So let me share. When you share, and again, Canva's going to give us a lot of options. So when I click share, I'm going to have a lot of options here. Most of the time, there's a couple ways that you would share with students. How I'm sharing links now in PD presentations is that I can go anyone with link, and then I can select the access and then can view. But again, you have a lot of different options there. And then I just copy this link. For students, I like using this public view link, and I'll show you what that looks like too. Let me copy this link, and then I would just put those links into Google Classroom. The difference between the link, the regular sharing link versus the public view link is that when I share the regular link, it's going to look like this slide presentation here. I'm looking at the wrong slide here. It's going to look like this, where you can kind of click between slides and they can kind of get an overview of the whole presentation. If I click on the public view link, it's going to look more complete, a little bit more like focused, like a more like published thing. And so I liked doing this with students just so that it kind of like kept them, I don't know, for me, it like looked a little bit more like upscale, and then it kept them a little bit more like focus on this page at a time versus like seeing all the other ones. But that's kind of the the differences between those two share links. The other thing, when you share with Canva, you do have a lot of sharing options. You can download it. If you're just sharing the link to the Canva, I would use the access level link here or the public view link, but you can also do embed codes. And so if I'm using a website, I would embed it within the website there. But as you can see, there's a lot of different things within there. And then Carolyn, your question about text boxes. Let me go back to my screen. Here we go. Yes, you can. Let me. Okay, it's now just going to be forever a whiteboard. But when you're in Canva, let me share the right one. For the text box, when you click on the text, so I'm going to say this is my text here, very fancy. If you click on these, if you click up here, you have your full editing text bar, and this is where we have effects. And with effects, you can do different things. Now, you can only do one effect at a time. So if I want a background, I can put a background here, select background, and then I can control how round I want it, how transparent, how widespread it's going to be, and the color of it. If I wanted to do like a different effect, like say I wanted this to be neon and not black, let me change the color. If I wanted it to be different, like if I wanted to have it here, there's changing color is up here. And then I still wanted a background, then what I would do is I would put in a like rectangle. So I'm going to add the shape and I'm going to put this behind here. So a couple of ways that we can add the background, but the easiest way is just to go to effects and to do it that way. Yeah, lots of layering happening. I'm mentioning layering. Our timer is almost up, so we'll keep talking about that. When you're talking like layering, one of the things to pay attention to is those layers. So if you right click or click on the arrows or the three dots, so I clicked on the text or clicked on an image, whatever I want to like control, I can click more and then click on the layers here. And then you can send it backwards, you can send it back, and then you can show layers here. And for those layers, this is where I really like showing all the layers. And actually, let me show you on my presentation. Let me share this tab instead. So we have more layers to go. So if I wanted to say, like, I wanted to see all the layers, or sometimes I have like an image that gets behind something and I can't access it, instead of like moving this all around and trying to figure out where it is, this is where I'm going to just click on more and click on those layers and show layers. And now I can manipulate things this way too. So now I can bring things and control where those layers are and where they're appearing on it. So that's one of the most helpful tools that I use, is like figuring out those layers. It's also the thing that drives me nuts about Instagram stories. And maybe this is just like my age showing, but like when I do Instagram stories and I have like lots of layering things, sometimes the layers like get lost. I can't like click on the thing I need to click, and then I end up getting mad and just like restarting over. But I wish it had a layering feature like Canva does, because I get so frustrated. But that, like I said, Instagram story thing might just be my age and like, you know, just my millennialness now. So a couple things with that. So continuing on, just so make sure we have time and on our break time. So I talked about having playlists and being able to embed things within Canva. And it's so simple that all you're doing is you're going to copy and paste the URL code. So if I'm in Spotify and I click on a playlist, the URL that's showing up above, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to paste it in. Oh no, it did not do what I needed it to. I'm going to paste it in, and hopefully it doesn't give me the text. Why is it just giving me the text? Probably because I copied it from a different link. Hang on. I try to be smart and do it from a Google Doc and have all my links in place. And I think I must have messed something up because it's not doing it now. This is why learning in real time. Okay. Now I just copied and pasted it. So I went to Spotify and I just grabbed the URL. Don't grab it from a Google Doc because that's where I messed up. But now I can just paste it in and I can see it and put it in. Now, if you're following, I'm in the editing screen right now and you can tell because I have all of the tools, but I also have my presentation screen open. So if I go to my presentation screen, it should show it in real time too, and have that in. I can also embed those docs and Google Slides and whatever. So I have another Canva presentation, the one I had from the SLAM presentation, and I can go in and again, just copy and paste the URL code. Oops, I am not copying and pasting the right codes. Let me try this. There we go. For some reason, it was giving me the Spotify one, even though I was on the right one. And paste it in, and I can just copy and paste it in. Now, for it to be shown like this, it does need to be shared with like anyone can view. So make sure the share settings, if it's not quite working. There are a couple of things, like I've tried posting websites and stuff, and it just gives me a button instead of the full like website or whatnot. But this is a great way. Again, if I'm teaching a concept, I have Google Slides on it, but I don't want to recreate them. I can just put them in and embed them in. And I've literally have had Canva like daily slides where I just have the whole slide just be my Google Slides that I can then manipulate and go through. The other thing with Canva is I talked about is the easy tools for presenting. And so let me share, when I did my presentation, and how I usually present, even if I kind of ignore it, is I go to present and I go to presenter view. You can also present and record from here as well. So just that's an option as well. But I usually go to presenter view. And what it does, it gives me two screens. So I have one screen that is open with my presentation that I can kind of manipulate, and then one with my slides, my presenter slides. So with these tools, I have these tools that are up here. So I can draw on the page. So if I like look at this, for like math teachers, you could be like walking around with like a tablet or with your touch screen device and be able to like actually like draw as you're walking around and have it appear on screen. I also have these magic shortcut tools, and these are some of my favorites because it will appear these features. So at the beginning, the curtain call that went off, and I could have the curtain call like open up the presentation. I am a cheesy teacher. I like cheesy things, and so I like to try to make it as corny as possible. I like it when my students like kind of give me the like, ugh, like what's she doing moan, the lovable one. And so I really liked using these in the classroom. I can also show a timer. So I can actually set the timer here. The other way you can access the timer is I can just push 5 or any of the number keys and it automatically pops up that timer. So I'm going to push 9 on my keyboard and a 9-minute timer will appear. And then one of my favorite things is the share remote control. And so with this QR code, and actually nobody do it because you're going to again control my presentation. So I'm going to hide it. But once you're in it, then you can go through, and on my phone, I can now record the presentation. I know it's hard to see, but I have 2 arrows that are here. If I have presenter notes, they will show up on my screen as well. So I can still access my presenter notes with my remote, and I can go through it. And then it also has those shortcuts. So that those bubbles. The kid said something so insightful. I can have all of those shortcuts directly on my phone too. I'm just controlling it through my phone. So as a classroom teacher, this is huge for me just to be able to do my presentation, to be walking around and have one device that I'm doing this on without walking around, like being tied down too much with it. So with the time, let's go ahead. I'm going to give you guys a couple of minutes to play. And then when we come, we'll take about 3 minutes right now to kind of practice all of those things that we kind of went through. And then when we come, and then we'll take our break. And when we come back from break, we'll go through there. So let's take about 3 minutes right now to kind of practice presenting, to insert those playlists or other docs, to do your presentation and practice presenting. Again, if you wanted to present, you can go to present and then practice presenting and going through all of those, practice using the QR code with there. So we'll take about 3 minutes right now to kind of go through there.
Amber, may I
Yes.
ask a question verbally, or do I have to type it in?
Nope, you can, this is your time.
With the presentation mode control, can you do it with a clicker versus the phone? Just with the whole thing of not using a phone. That's why I was asking.
Yeah, so you do need a QR code. So you need a device that has a QR code that's attached to it. So probably not with the clicker, at least not that I'm not sure. We would have to play with it and play with your clicker to see if you have it. Yeah. I know with the thing with the clicker though is you would lose the ability to do the shortcuts and like to see your notes.
Okay.
But yeah, so that would be one benefit. I know, like, not trying to have your phone out, but
yeah,
it was usually one of those things I said.
So that's what I was curious about, if you could still have control of moving through the slides and everything. So
Yeah,
I was just curious.
Yeah, and a lot of times, like before, like doing it, like the first couple times doing it, I'd be like, here's what I'm doing on my phone. Like,
yeah,
I'm using it as a tool right now. Like, really explicitly state that for students. And then like, you don't have a whole lot of options on the screen for it. I have my notes, I see my shortcuts, and then I have 2 arrows. So it's not like I'm texting, like where I have to.
Right, no, I get it. I was just, it's a whole issue of put your phone away. So, all right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. I know the ability to make that whole playlist into slides.
So my question is, just like in Google Slides, you have the annotation. No, that's not the word. Animation, where words, phrases can slide in. It's the same in Canva. Just a matter of playing around and discovering that. Yeah.
Yes, I would say, like, and I wasn't a huge, like, to be honest, like huge, again, like I didn't play with animation a lot in Google Slides either. But if you go to, why isn't that showing me? When you're in, oops, let me share my screen. There should be a thing where you can animate, like where it goes to position, effects. Let's see where they moved it. There is a thing up here where it should be animation.
Okay, no problem.
But now I'm not seeing it.
I don't use it that much, but I know sometimes it just makes things pop. Beautiful. You were right. It's somewhat overwhelming, but in a good way, because I know, let me focus on these minimum things to add some zest. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah, there is an animation, and now I'm not seeing it, so I'm going to have to look for it, but it was one of the things I did want to point out. One of the other things, and let me just duplicate this so you can kind of see it better. You can manipulate the text a lot, or images or whatever. And if you click shift, I can actually kind of manipulate 2 things more all together like this. And so I can also group this together. So if I group it together, then I move it all and it's acting as one piece, which is really nice when you want things to be grouped together. When I'm done grouping them, or if I made a mistake and I need to fix it, I can ungroup them and be able to manipulate each individually as well. The other thing with text, if you click on position, so I have these 2 that are highlighted that are working together now. I can click on position and I can arrange it. And now I can actually like figure out, okay, I want these to actually be centered from each other, and I can center them together. So all I did with that is I just hit shift and clicked on what I wanted to do, clicked on position, and then I can make them all neat and tidy. So maybe now I want these to be aligned in the middle so that they're all together, or center them. Maybe I want them like horizontally, vertically. It's kind of messing up because I'm doing them all, but I can kind of not worry so much about the nitpicky, is it straight? I can kind of just like have it do it for me there with that. All right, I'm going to stay on during break, but I do want to honor our break time. So when we come back from break, we will talk about, I do want to show you some of the templates that I use with Google Classroom, with Canva, and then put it into Google Classroom. I'm trying to find my right slide. So we'll talk about some of the templates, but feel free to explore these if you would like over break, how I kind of use these during peer feedback, and then we'll have our sandbox time. So we'll cut a little into our sandbox time to talk about some of how I actually used it. So, but we'll go ahead and take a break, 15-minute break. So come back at 11:02. All right.
Hi, I have a quick question. So I'm currently on Canva, but I don't know if you could see like the first time when I went in, or do I have to do something?
Sorry, say that one more time.
So I'm on Canva right now on my account. Would you be able to, I know that you did the poll, so I don't know if I did the poll in the beginning.
Oh, yeah, let me look and to see.
Or how would you know if because I'm currently on my Canva.
Yes, so if you logged into Canva, I should be able to see your name. And so let me show you where you can go. So I'm just going to click on the poll now and click on responses. And let me view, and let me link to the sheet. And so I clicked link to the sheet, and now I can see everybody that did.
Sophie, I'm not on there. How
It might be. Are you on your school account or a personal account?
No, I'm on my school account. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. You're not appearing on here. But try clicking it again.
Okay. Originally I was on my phone, and then I came back because it was glitching, and so I came back like twice. Maybe that's why.
Maybe.
I don't know. Okay, so I'll try doing it again.
Yeah, and the poll, like I said, it was more of like to see. I wanted to see how exactly, like in a larger setting, how it worked.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we're learning together too.
So right now, I know it's break right now, but are we? Do you want me to continue with the Canva to have it on?
Yes, because we'll continue. We'll start creating with it after break.
Yeah. Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Background, even if it can't quite distinguish it. And then one thing too, before we fully get started again, with when we're removing backgrounds, I don't know if every time I end a presentation, I end up having a billion tabs open. I don't know if that's everybody, but that's definitely me. That's me right now. But one thing too, let me just use this one. When you remove a background and use this BG remover, you can also, like, there's a lot of times where it doesn't remove it quite right. So if you click on BG remover again, I can show original and actually go through this and like edit out. Like, let's say this isn't where it's supposed to be. I can edit out where I want it to edit out. So if for some reason it didn't erase everything all the way that happened with an image recently, or if I needed to restore something, like now I do want her hair back, like it shouldn't have taken that away, I can kind of go through and kind of do that way too. I can also use the control down here. So like if I want to like figure out, like really to kind of see it and have control and like get to those fine details, I can do that all within there. So a couple more things with like lots of features within there, or like lots of control that you have, or a fair amount of control that you have within Canva editing features. All right. Before we jump into our sandbox, I did put the sandbox link. We do have a sign in for sandbox time. And so I'll pin it to our chat too, but make sure you sign in for this for like this hour of session so that we can make sure you get paid. Okay. And then I'll give you guys a minute to sign in real quick if you have not signed in. All right. So with there's a lot of different tools we'll talk about, but first I want to talk about, oh, my order is all messed up because I had these things for before break. So how I've used this in the classroom. One thing that I really like about doing, and I'm a collaborative teacher, if that's a term. I really like students collaborating and working together on things and building things together as a classroom. And so one thing that I've done in the class is these Iron Chefs. Now, if you're familiar with Edge Protocols, this is my version of Iron Chef. It's a slightly different version than what the true Edge Protocols term is. But if you click on these links, I'm going to show you guys the student examples of both of these, but I also have these templates that if you would like to use and modify for your classroom, you can just click on the templates and make it your own. So what I did with these Iron Chefs, let me show you the current events one, actually the StoryCorps. There it is. With Iron Chef, with this particular Iron Chef is a way of like Edge Protocols, like a protocol, like a standard of how we can do things in the classroom. So I really like using StoryCorps in the classroom. If you're familiar with StoryCorps, it's part of NPR. And they, every Friday, if you tune into KZU, usually on my way to work, I could hear this for the Friday StoryCorps, or you can go to storycorps.org. Highly recommend StoryCorps, but StoryCorps it's based around two people having a conversation. So it could be two, like a mother and daughter, or it could be a coach or whoever, like two people having a conversation. And what some of those conversations they've animated or turned into like podcast or things like that. So there's kind of like a multimedia usage of it. One of my favorite things to do that I will, like when I'm back in the classroom, I will continue using StoryCorps. I take this a step further and have students do the Great Thanksgiving Listen, like during Thanksgiving break. So this is always like kind of the precursor to that. So with this StoryCorps, and it's going to get loud for a second because they all kind of go at once, but I just got bored of how I was doing it. When I had students look at the mission of StoryCorps and I wanted them to find the background of StoryCorps, and I would use those Google Slide that honestly I would use usually when a sub was there. But I wanted to change it up a little bit. So I put it into Canva and created this like kind of Iron Chef version.
What is StoryCorps to public?
Let me stop these recordings real quick. So what I first had students do is they watch this really quick video. And so we watched this video. It's the mission statement about like background of StoryCorps, and read their mission statement. Then just based on those like initial looking at, I had students record a conversation asking, based on the video and mission statement, what is the purpose of StoryCorps? Now I was going to say, I just like went crazy and I was like, I'm going to see if it can handle 7 videos at once. And Canva did. So using that uploads, record yourself feature, I had one person in each group record themselves. They did not need to use video because there's going to be multiple faces on here. But now I had students record their conversation. Now the sound from the article, it's a computer in the middle of a group. But it was enough where I could like, one, hold them accountable, and two, if I needed to listen to these later, I could, and to make sure they like got it. The main point though is I wanted them having a conversation about this, and I wanted to hold them accountable for the conversation. So I'm really big into having kids talk, but I know that if I have one group of students over here and I'm on the other side of the room, they're probably not talking about what I need them to talk about. So having them record conversations really kind of helps keep everybody moving along and moving with this. So Canva was able to handle all of this. The kids were working on this at the same exact time. So that was really awesome. And it was definitely a little scary moment because I was experimenting and seeing if it could handle, and Canva did it beautifully. Then at the next step of this is then I had kids and we're working on the same slide deck. Now, we do a lot of like kind of getting to know each other and looking through things. And then I, first times I have kids all on a slide deck together, I am definitely like more watching of that slide deck for any inappropriate stuff, but we kind of talk about that and like nip in the butt if it happens. But kids, then kids based on their table. So I had each table colored a different way. So I'd color a table and then their names, they worked independently. So they then went to an independent work, found a slide, and honestly, I just said, your table 2, find a slide in table 2 and claim it as your own. They claimed a slide and they had to watch 2 of the stories. They had to copy and paste which ones they watched in there, summarize it, and give me key details. So each kid worked on this individually. And then at the end of the lesson, they got back together, and Iron Chef has a secret ingredient. This is like my little like simplified version of it. So they had to create something. So it didn't matter what they created. They just had to put something on the slide. So it could be a discussion, it could be art, whatever they wanted to do. They just needed to put it on the slide. So they had to create something. So they got back together, kind of talked about their stories, and then create something that addresses the questions. Why are these interviews and missions of StoryCorps important, and who would you interview? So having those class conversations. So some kids, most kids just kind of put in images and kind of discussed it that way. One student, but they had to kind of create a poster. One group, now they can manipulate each other's input. I can kind of see and kind of track where they are. So definitely before doing this, I like scaffolded into it a little bit more. So the first time we did like a big group thing, I might have just had the group conversation the first time that they did it, so they're all working together. Usually it wasn't that big of a deal in my classrooms to do slideshows, but I definitely was making sure the first couple of times that we did it, that I was like really paying attention to the slides as they were working on them to make sure that they weren't manipulating. And if there was ever any issues, then I like try to address it right then. But usually I didn't have a huge problem with this. Or problems tended to be pretty small. And I did these a lot in my classroom too, where they did this. So it just became part of our routine, where like the novelty of like messing with other people's stuff, like we did them so often that it lost its novelty. So that's one way of doing it. The second way of doing this, again, working with group slides, like I said, I did this pretty fairly often in my class. So that novelty of messing with people's stuff, like this was just part of our daily routine. So I like having kids look at current events. But I wanted to build in some digital literacy of like them looking at news sources and then laterally reading and finding another source that talked about the same subject. So once a week, we would look at current events. Again, I had a slide deck for each class, and again, set it up by the tables. Table 1, go claim your slide. And students worked independently where they had to read 2 different news sources. They had to put them in here where they got their sources from, talk about the similarities and differences between those sources, write a summary of them. We use the CM frames with it. And then how does that relate to you, or why is this important? And this was a really great way of them getting like to talk about news and kind of looking at each other's sources. Now, notice that there's a timer up here, because at the end of whatever time I gave them to work on this, then they had to present to their groups about their news article, and they had 1 minute to do it. Now, I made everybody, so like however long I gave them to work on their current events, at the end of that time period, everybody went to present mode on Canva. So it kind of, mostly I had them do that because I did not want them working on their Canva while other people are presenting. I wanted them totally in the moment. So by forcing them to hit present and full view present, they were like kind of blocked out of their screens. And then they had to kind of show their slides and talk about it. this was a very informal presentation. They could just read it or they can discuss it, but it really kind of gave a great way of us talking about current events. And because of that, I was actually able to build some classroom activities. If I saw a lot of students were talking about the same current event, then I could build a classroom activity based on that current event for them to discuss further, or like maybe create a little Socratic seminar on it. So this was a really great way to kind of build discussions, and then also for me to see, okay, what's really interesting the students, what's really on their minds right now, and how can I bring that more back into the classroom with that. So just a couple of ways that I've used Canva with that. Again, if you are using class sets, you know your students. My students, like they didn't seem like I didn't have much of a problem of them collaborating, but we also did it regularly. It was part of our classroom routine. So you know your students, and like whether this works or whether like you assign them individual templates or have them work individually on it versus a class set, totally up to you on like how like your students work. A couple of other things with collaboration. I had students do Avid tutorials. So I taught Avid the last couple of years. And so we had Avid tutorials. And during the spring semester, we would get kicked out of the classroom and be sent to the library because of AP testing. My room was always used for testing. And so I needed a way to kind of hold them accountable when we were kind of more spread out. So I had them do Canva presentations and use a whiteboard. I can actually click through and go through the slides on it. And now I'm recording. With it. Let me go back again. Something is going off and I'm not sure what it was, but this will actually be as a video of me talking through how I use Avid tutorials. If you're using it collaboratively, I like doing presentation and then using the whiteboard versus going directly to whiteboard because I have a little bit more control over the slides and it's a little easier to go through. But again, I can add recordings, have kids record themselves, and have kids do their tutorials all like a collaborative space all directly within Canva. So kind of different ways that we can use it. The other way to use it is in PLC meetings. This PDSA cycle was from a PLC meeting, and I had slides for those meetings. But we were also like, it was a working PLC meeting, so we had notes. So we kind of needed to look through our past documents. So I embedded the Google Documents into here. And then as we were discussing things, I could take notes directly on my touchscreen device and take notes as we were going through it. So kind of a little bit more informal. I am a slides, like a presentation person. I've realized in meetings, I handle that better. Like I like looking at slides more than I do like looking at an agenda. And so this was just another way that I can incorporate that and still be taking notes and kind of capturing the thoughts without having to go through different documents there. So different ways. The other way, I just want to touch, I'm talking a lot so I can give you guys sandbox time, but again, looking at different ways is peer feedback. And so I've had students, if we were working on an essay, I set up Canva slides. And one thing that you can do, and if you are very interested in this, there's a video down here on using bulk crate. But one thing we can do within Canva is we can link up a Google spreadsheet or Canva spreadsheets, and I can bulk create, and it will create. Using bulk crate, I can then create a slide that will put in the names of each student for that bulk crate. So I'm not having to type each student's name. I can just link it up to the spreadsheet and have it create the slides for me for that presentation. So I use bulk crate with peer feedback or for certificates, but I could just tag in the spreadsheet that this is the presenter column. This is a better example, the author's name. This, I would type this with, this is where like this column A is going to be, this is where column B is going to be, and then hit generate, and it would create all the slides for me for my class. So I don't have time to go into this right now, but if you're interested, it is on bulk crate, or I would be happy to like help you go through. Canva does have its own spreadsheets too. So if you look at Canva's materials, it's going to show you with how to use it within Canva. We're Google people too in our district. So I show you how I create Google Sheets through Google Classroom and link up everything, like how I do it in the classroom with that. So lots of different things. And then last but not least, or almost last but not least, just a way of sharing information. So sometimes material is better in a, like I found it in a website format versus presentation mode. So I've used things to like review for finals, or like this up here I had for my Avid finals. I needed all the finals information in one place. And so I found websites were a better way of doing that. So it's a different way of sharing information. And of course, embedding, we talked about embedding those Canva calendars and other things. And so having those live updates. All right, that was supposed to be all before break, but I get really passionate when we talk about things. But the other things we can do is there's lots of AI tools embedded. We talked about some of them. One thing I want to kind of draw your attention to is on the Canva slides. Let me share this tab. If you click on resize, it's kind of like hidden, but if you click on resize here and scroll down, you can actually translate or transform things into documents. So I can make this presentation into something else. So maybe I want to transform this into a summary document or like a blog post or a summary document, so that I can have it and share with parents. Here's what we've learned today, or this is what we've learned this week. I can transform that into a summary or blog post. And then I can also translate this. So I can translate this into a lot of different languages. I'm not going to say every language, but a lot of different languages. And when I do that, so if I want to translate it to Spanish, I can keep my original tone of voice or change it, and then I can translate it, and it will create a new document for me with that translation. I can also translate directly within this, but I usually like to keep my original presentations original. So lots of different things that we've just gone over. Okay, let me find presentation again. So I just talked a lot. I want to have some sandbox time. Before we do that, though, I do want to mention that you might see archived Salinas Union High School District. If you were listening during break, I kind of talked about this just a second, or briefly nodded to this, but this week, like as of Tuesday, Canva changed our organizational structure. We are an older account in Canva, and so the way that we had our school set up was kind of an older version of what Canva, versus what Canva does now. And so we are migrating over to this newer version. So what's basically happening is we're going to have each school site have its own team and organization. So you'll probably see those upcoming changes soon-ish, but don't worry if you see this archive. You can still access and use this archived. It's just saying archived to let us know that that's kind of like the old team, but you can still use everything. It will still be functional and do it all in that way. As we are creating newer things, kind of switch to the new team that you have once you have it, and you can move things over teams pretty easily, and the login guide is here to kind of show you how to do that, or I'll create something once it kind of becomes a little bit more official with it. But biggest thing to take away is just note that when it says archived, it's not actually archived. It's not going anyway. You still have access to it. So it's just letting us know it's the old team with there. Okay, so if Canva is a lot and it's overwhelming, there's a lot of resources here under Canva Essentials. Canva created trainings from us. Their resource guide, their teacher resource centered, lots of different things that we can go through and kind of explore. And the EdTech portal, we also will have every training on Canva as well. But with that said, I want to give you guys sandbox time, because that's what this time is supposed to be for. So sandbox time, so you can practice presenting, you can create, explore the editing tools, just play with Canva, because a lot of times we don't get time to play. So we have about 20 minutes right now to play and explore. So go ahead and play and explore. And I will stop recording it too, so that we have it. But feel free to unmute, ask questions, to do what you need in this time.